Hello! Time for another midweek chat. I'm not on Lake Superior today, but got a nice little spot here on a rock. You can probably tell where this is if you're from Eau Claire, right? So we got the Cascades Tissue Factory right up the hill there, and I don't know if this dam just regulates water, if it generates any electricity. I think I heard maybe it does not generate electricity. Got the high bridge over there. We got a ton of like fishing boats just piled up on the rocks here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, almost a dozen. And they're the kind of boats, it's kind of set up just precisely right now, so I don't want to move it. But it's got, you know, the point in front and the back's got, it's flat on the back, so you can hook a motor on it, kind of boat like that. So I think people like to fish here for maybe, I don't know, I was going to say maybe sturgeon, but maybe that's, I think I've heard people catch sturgeon here with big, you know, huge fish. But anyway, so here we are. It's November 13th, and is the feast of St. Francis Cabrini, who is a special saint to Michael Kobaki in the parish. He goes to that shrine in Colorado. I forget what city, if it's in Golden, Colorado, but there's a big Mother Cabrini shrine out there. And he's brought some really great stuff back with him. So Mother Cabrini, maybe you got to see the movie last year that came out called Cabrini. I did, and it was very good, I thought. And what did I tell the children today at Mass about Mother Cabrini? Well, I mean, the sketch of her thing was that she was always a little sickly, and partly to protect her, and partly because they didn't think that a woman could just lead such a venture. The Pope, she's from Italy. Back in those days, you could go talk to the Pope. She said, "Let me go to China. I want to be a missionary. Let me go to China. I want to be a missionary." And he said, "No, you're not well, and you're, you know, I would need, you'd have to be led by, you know, no woman has ever done that before." And so they're reluctant. But she's like, "I want to go to China. I want to be a missionary." And then finally, as Pope Leo XIII, around 1880, 1890, relented and said, "Okay, you can be a missionary. You can take your 7 sisters or so with you, but you're not going to go east to China. You're going to go to west to the United States of America. It's this fledgling nation, and there's all these immigrants from Italy that are going to New York, and I'm worried about them." Pope says they're not getting educated. They're very poor. They're not. There's not good health care for them. I'm not sure they're learning the faith. And so we really need people to go there from the church to provide their material needs as well as to catechize them so we can save their souls. So Cabrini went, and there was supposed to be a house waiting for her, and there was not. And in fact, the Archbishop of New York, I think his name was like Corrigan or something. I read this all online this morning. I knew some of it too. But what I didn't know, Corrigan was not too excited about this outreach to the Italians. He was an Irish guy himself. There's a lot of Irish immigrants in New York City too, and he kind of favored them. So when someone's like, "I need to reach out to the ones from Italy because they're the poorest of the poor here," and he wasn't real sympathetic. He actually told her to go back home. He said, don't ask people for money here because they're giving to other things, and I don't want you to dip into my source of income for the archdiocese, really. So, but she was just persistent. She just found a way. She found a way. And she didn't get a place to stay, she just went to them. She went to the immigrants. She found that they were living in the sewers just to stay warm. Just really the poorest, worst living conditions in the United States were the Italian immigrants in New York City. And she had this idea, there are good people in the world, and if people knew this, they wouldn't allow it to go on. And so she found a reporter for the New York Times, and he said, "You got to come see this. You got to see how people are living." And he did. And there was a big headline in the paper that said, "Rats live better in New York City than the Italian immigrants. Rats live better than the Italian immigrants. And, well, it made a difference, and people were sympathetic. They started giving her donations. She was able to build a house. And basically, then the Archdiocese gave her this land that was like, I think the Jesuits had this house. It was on a nice piece of land, but there was no water, right? It was before they could get water, and it's almost like a Lourdes, like Our Lady of Lourdes story, where Bernadette scratched and there was a spring. They just tried like crazy to find a well so they could establish a house there, and a school, or an orphanage, or hospital. And they did. They struck water, and they were able to build a well. And it's like one of the most valuable properties in New York now. But they gave it to her because they thought it was junk, But she was just a story of unparalleled courage and sense of calling and vocation. So the Pope even said, the world's too big for you. You're not well. There's just too much ocean crossings, all this stuff. It's too much. And she said, Holy Father, the world is too small for everything that I'm going to accomplish. Just this burning passion to serve. And what was the other quote she had? With this Archbishop she was tangling with, she said, he was trying to talk her out or go back, and he goes, look, she goes, don't be afraid. If God wants it to happen, it'll happen. And I'm here because I'm following the call of God. And he said we can either serve our weakness, meaning like our fears, or we can serve our purpose. And I'm going to follow my purpose, which is here. So, great story. Then she went on just to New York. She died in Chicago in 1917. She outlived her diagnoses by like 25 years, I think. I probably mentioned this back when the movie came out, but actually lived one summer in a building that she built in Seattle as an orphanage, or a hospital. And she built a lot of stuff there, and then Denver or Colorado, just all over the country. I think it was like 65 schools, hospitals, or orphanages, or combinations. So, and she's the first U.S. citizen to be canonized. So, pretty good. And it's interesting, I don't know how many people preach today about the connection between, it's always touchy to dip our foot into politics, but I think I wrote in the bulletin, if the Pope several weeks ago said, neither candidate for president is squeaky clean. They both represent moral evils, and he pointed to Harris and said he doesn't protect the vulnerable unborn lives. And he said, or the other candidate said Trump does not recognize the dignity of immigrants as human beings. And so that's kind of what we're looking at now. So one of them won, right? And so the bishops are meeting in Baltimore now. And one of the bishops is named Mark Seitz. He's from El Paso, Texas, so right on the border. That little hump on the far west side of, there's a national park there called Big Bend. That's where the Rio Grande makes a big bend. My friend Otto liked to walk his dog there and camp when he lived in Texas. But anyway, he's the bishop there, and he's been an advocate for immigrant rights for a long time. And it's not like the church is saying, there doesn't need to be changes, or that everybody who's here can stay, just open borders. That's how it gets caricaturized. I mean, but to be humane in our treatment of immigrants. And so there's all this talk right now about, this mass deportation, that they could deport like 1 million people that don't have the legal access here, or legal papers. Just kind of round them up and send them back. And it seems a little cruel, splitting up families and all those things. And so anyway, a lot of the bishops, and I think you'll hear more, the bishop said that this week they're going to try to have a plan for parishes, to give parishes guidance about how to deal with this issue of deporting if it comes to roost in our own hometown. Like we wonder, so like Archbishop Wenski in Miami, he says, I think, it could be a lot of talk about mass deportations, and when they see the very negative effects that would have on the economy, because these are people that are working, these are people that are milking our cows, they're people that are serving in many, many ways. the economy, if suddenly you take 1 million workers out, it's going to be a disaster. I remember watching a show years ago, so it's been an issue forever for my lifetime, I guess, how to deal with people crossing the border illegally. And one guy on a talk show, he said, well, if you guys want to pick your own tomatoes, then go ahead, you can send them back. But so they do a lot of jobs that other people don't want to even do, which is not ideal situation either. But here's some quotes from this Archbishop Seitz. He calls for an orderly, legal immigration system in which immigrants, once vetted, and those who are fleeing unlivable situations may enter, and those needed to work in our country may receive visas. I mentioned about that plan. He criticized Biden back in June, the current president. He said, when vulnerable families seeking safety and the means for a dignified life are labeled invaders or illegals, terms that mask their humanity, we have strayed from the path of righteousness, succumbed to our fear of the other, and forsaken the values upon which our nation was founded. I read that, and that makes sense to me. So the bishops will be calling basically for a humane treatment of immigrants, that'll be just real big in the months ahead. The Jonah organization in Eau Claire joining our neighbors in helping. Acronym. They met actually at St. James this week, and they talked about immigration, what will happen if there's raids on dairy farms or restaurants. And anyway, today I just throw that out to you as we don't want to be cruel. So there's that. Let's dovetail quickly into that from Cabrini, because she was the one reaching out to the immigrants from Italy, right? So what else we got? We got BLT. Oh, I think I'm gonna have a BLT for dinner tonight. I picked these tomatoes that were still green before the hard frost came, and they look pretty good on my kitchen table now. So I got some lettuce, got some turkey bacon still there. So it could be the last bite of my summer tomatoes tonight. Pretty good for November 13th, right? But you'd want to know that. Hey, you guys know about Medjugorje? So 1984 was my one big international year, because I studied abroad when I was in college. And our November break, we had a week off, and Kelly and Brent wanted to go to Medjugorje, Yugoslavia. It's not called Yugoslavia anymore. It's called, is it in Bosnia? Herzegovina? Anyway, or Serbia or Croatia, one of those. And I don't know, I didn't know anything about it. And I just thought, wow, yeah, I'll go to Yugoslavia. That sounds exotic, and how will I ever get a chance to go to Yugoslavia again? So I went, and what happened, this was 3 years after, when did it start here? The first claimed appearance of Mary to these messengers, that, like in Fatima appeared to the children. So there are these 3, I think, people in Yugoslavia that reported that Mary had appeared to her. And June 24th, 1981. So I'm going just 3.5 years later. And it was kind of a big deal. People were going, but it wasn't that big a deal, because we got as far as the city of Mostar, and the bus goes from Mostar to Medjugorje, but only on Wednesdays and Saturdays. And we were there, wouldn't you know, Thursday and Friday. It just didn't work. Now that I think about it, they were so really eager to go. I'm surprised they didn't try to bum a ride or to ask, but the public transportation would not go to Medjugorje from when we were there. And I don't know, I didn't think anything of it. I just enjoyed the cheap food. One of the most beautiful places I ever was a city called Dubrovnik in Croatia, right on the coast. I remember being in the water of the Adriatic Sea and opening my eyes, and it was just like I was inside a sapphire. It was the bluest blue. So anyway, I was just having the time of my life, and I wasn't really thinking about Marian apparitions. And But anyway, it was kind of made the news. So it's always like, does the Vatican approve it? Does the Vatican not approve it? And there was like this politics, which I don't really understand. There were some priests that were supporting it. I don't know if they were Franciscans maybe, but the archdiocese, the diocesan bishop of the area said, no, we don't support it. We think maybe it's a ruse. Anyway, in the last couple of weeks, Rome, Vatican, Pope, said, hey, we look at it now, these past, 81, 91, 101, 40 years. 40 years, how old am I? Wow. So 40 years ago, this happened, and 42 years, 43 years. And so there's been a lot of positive fruits. They didn't declare that as authentic apparition, but they said that we've heard a lot of testimony that a lot of positive things have happened from people that have gone there. People have returned to the sacraments, they've returned to the church. There have been people who have become priests after their visits there. There's been an increase of faith, there's been an increase in prayer, there's been an increase in renewed marriages that were in trouble, and they made a trip to Medjugorje and found healing there. So I love that approach. It's like, well, I don't know if we have a kind of proof we can say that Mary for sure appeared there, but people that go there seem to benefit, and so we're not going to tell people not to go. But they did kind of have a caveat, like, we don't talk to those people that Mary appeared to, because we don't know if we can trust them. Something like, I'm making that up, the wording, but yeah, pilgrimage purpose, okay, boy. But it's the Queen of Peace. And she said, as far as the messages that people have sensed from Mary at that place, she said there's been a constant call to abandon a worldly lifestyle and excessive attachment to worldly goods. I can't read my writing. Something with frequent calls for conversion, which makes peace possible. So don't get too attached to the things of this world, and keep trying to convert your soul to God and what lasts, and that's what will bring peace to our world. So I thought that's good. I think that's great. It's like one of those Acts of the Apostles that there were a lot of early Christian Jewish tensions, right? Because we were saying Jesus is the Messiah, and the Jews said, a lot of them said, no, he's not. And people thought about religion probably from day one. And one of the wise Jewish rabbis said, just don't put them in jail, don't persecute them, the Christians. If it's really something of God, then it'll do well, it'll bear fruit. And if it's not something of God, then it'll just wither out. You don't have to like try to squash it and get violent with them, for heaven's sakes. Don't you wish that was more people's attitude all the time? So anyway, that seems to be the attitude toward Medjugorje, so that's nice. All right. I got Parish news here somewhere. Wreaths. The wreaths are here. So I think it's great. 17 families ordered brass rings to have as Advent wreaths in their homes. And I think there were 23 people ordered just the candle sets because maybe they had a wreath, but they didn't have the candles. Those are all here. Anne and her volunteers are going to label them so that the Smiths can pick up their box with the wreath and the candles, and it'll be so you can start picking them up in the gathering space on the tables. They're already paid for. People paid for that in advance, so thank you very much. And it seems like a good thing, spread a little Advent into the home. So Advent will start 2.5 weeks. Thanksgiving. So, a couple things. So our Thanksgiving ecumenical event will be the Tuesday before Thanksgiving. So that's the 26th of November. Not sure on the time, if it's 6:30 or 7. But it'll be at Our Savior's, that's the old place in Menominee. Thriving community there, which is good. Good Shepherd, I apologize to my Lutheran friends. Pastor Josh and all the good people at Good Shepherd Lutheran will be hosting us and them for a joint prayer on Tuesday the 26th, and that'll be at 6:30. So please come. I just think that's such a rare opportunity that we have to pray with other Christians, and in a spirit of love and cooperation and goodness. And we always think we don't do enough of that whenever we gather, so it's nice. But when we do it, we hope we get a good show. I'll be preaching, joint choir, it'll be good stuff. Christina and I trade off who preaches when we go to Good Shepherd. Okay, so, but also Thanksgiving, so there's been a nice tradition at St. James of having a free meal. I don't know if it's potlucky or someone's, I don't know how it's arranged financially, honestly. But for people that don't want to be alone on Thanksgiving, come on over to St. James. It's like Thanksgiving morning or late morning. I don't even know the time, but you can find out. But I think very few people have signed up this year, which is unusual. So I just put that out to you. It's really been a nice tradition, so don't be shy. People would love to hear that more people are interested in doing that. Let someone on staff know, okay? Church renovation, you'll get a bigger report from Nick on the upcoming newsletter, but basically things are rolling, but slowly. That's the way it is in the church, and you don't want to rush things that have lasting impact. But we are looking at creating that music space as you look toward the altar on the far left, that short column of pews that will remove a little more than half of those pews and make that a space for the music ministry. And it won't be so crowded in the sanctuary. And the seating, what we lose there, we hope to make up for people that are able to get up those stairs. In the choir loft, we'll take the piano out and it'll be just extra seating. It's actually, you get really good sound and view from up there. But when would that happen? They're thinking of starting that after everything kind of cools down, after Easter and after confirmation. So maybe the second half of May. So more to come there. It says prayer. That's always good. I'm not sure what it means. Prayer. I talk about immigration. So our refugee family is no word yet. It's been silent, but it should be in process. We did get a letter from World Relief, who sponsors these and gets them set up in communities along with Catholic Charities and Lutheran Social Services, that they're worried that it's all going to come to an end, because apparently part of the new president's plan is no refugees allowed into the U.S. That's what the letter said. So we'll see if that actually happens or not. But that shouldn't affect ours coming to us. So hopefully that will happen. We can provide that welcome to the stranger and to those who are escaping something awful. Bethlehem sale. The olive oil arrived yesterday. You can buy that anytime. You can come by the office and get we have small bottles, medium bottles, and large bottles. If you use a lot of olive oil, large bottles good, $40. If you want to give a gift, you don't want to spend that much, you can give a 250 milliliter bottle. It's a nice glass bottle. It's got the Arabic on it because it's from the Holy Land, and that's $20. And then the medium-sized bottle is $30. That's olive oil. We got all kinds of stuff, and so I'll take some over on Monday when I go back to Wausau, deliver to our friends at St. Anne's in Wausau, who are also selling some of the things. And so that'll be good. We're waiting for 2 more packages from a guy named Alfred, and I'm having really trouble getting him the money. The money wires keep bouncing back, and we don't know why. The other places I've sent the money to, and it works, and they get their money. But Alfred kindly sent them anyway, though originally he said he wasn't going to until he got the money. So I don't know. We gotta, hopefully that happens. But we should have his stuff pretty soon too. So anyway, so when is the sale? Not this weekend, but the next weekend they'll start putting stuff out to sell, and it goes for a great cause. Mainly the large communities where we bought most of the stuff from, people with intellectual disabilities living in Bethlehem in the West Bank, where there is basically no business activity now and things are really hard. Another shop owner in Bethlehem, we have some of the ceramic stuff, and then this Alfred has a shop in Jerusalem. He has no business, there's no pilgrims. So it goes to a good cause, and we've already got some money over there to help them sustain themselves. And if we do well in the sales, we'll send some more. Okay, where am I at? 20 more minutes. Okay, I was gonna. Anything else? Pastoral Council had a nice meeting. We're reading a book that talks about moving from institutional faith to intentional faith. And so we should try to identify our parish culture. What's that like? What's allowed at St. James? What's not allowed? What's punished? What's valued? What's celebrated? And we might look into that more. If you have any ideas about that, how you see the culture at St. James, we'd love to hear. But this one, there's like 5 paradigm shifts, it says, in a parish for renewal. And the one we spent time with last night was from institutional faith to intentional faith. And institutional faith is kind of like keeping the rules, doing what kind of you're supposed to do. I think the best way to, maybe that I read it was that you're checking the boxes. You know, you're going to mass, good, or like something like a devotion, like the Sacred Heart of Jesus or something. Okay, so an institutional approach might be like, okay, so the rule is if I go to mass every first Friday for 9 months with the Sacred Heart prayer, then that assures final grace. It'll help me in my moment of my death. So I'll do that, you know. And a person can do that in two ways. They might just do it and say, oh, I did it, so now I'm gonna. But does it really affect their friendship with Christ? Do they really feel the love of Christ in that? Is it like a good deal they're just getting, like a bargain at the Best Buy? You know, and or you could do that very same thing, but really have it affect your heart and to ponder the Sacred Heart of Jesus, love so great that it can't be held within his body, but is externalized. You see the suffering on it with the crown of thorns, and you're just touched by his love and develop a friendship, a desire to love him back, a desire to hear his call and follow where he leads. You know, and that's more of an intentional faith, right? One that really affects our life, draws us into relationship, and really affects how we do trying to be a follower of Jesus. So anyway, that was interesting to talk about, and we'll see where that goes. Isaac of Syria skeet. I thought I'd throw that in. I just read that Isaac of Syria was recognized by Rome, so he's sort of more of a Eastern Orthodox kind of saint. I think, you know, I have a lot of icons from over the years, and I think easily more than half of them I purchased from a monastery in Orthodox monastery north of Madison a little ways called Isaac of Syria skeet. And they really did a nice job. And now they kind of went bankrupt, or I don't know, it still exists. They still make good icons, but they call it St. Paul's now. St. Paul's Orthodox monastery icons. And I'm sort of out of my acquiring stage, so I don't think I'll be buying a lot of icons now. But that's how I came across the name. And I saw, oh, Isaac of Syria he's canonized. It's interesting. So I just thought I'd share a little bit. He was apparently very bright. He wrote books. They made him a bishop, and then he thought, I don't want to do this. I just want to be alone and pray. And so he left being bishop, and he went alone to pray. So he's kind of this hermit kind of saint. So respected for his spirituality and his austerity, leaving the things of the world and just pursuing God for God's sake. And people would come to him for miles to seek advice, to seek a word, things like that. And really believed so strongly in the love of God. I have a few quotes of some things that he wrote, if I can find them. And it said he was added to the martyrology. So I thought, well, is he a martyr? I never heard he's a martyr. So how did he die? And he just died of old age. So I'm like, well, how is he in the martyrology? So then I dug a little further, and there's this official list, apparently in Rome and the Vatican. It's the martyrology list of saints and of martyrs and saints. So you don't have to be a martyr to be in the martyrology, and that would fit him because he just got blind when he got old, died of old age. He believed in this, what is it called, hesychast prayer, the prayer of silence, where you're just so used to praying, it becomes so habitual that even when you're eating, you're praying, or as you're drifting off to sleep, you're praying. It's called, you know, prayer of the heart. You know, some people train themselves to that kind of prayer in their breathing. Lord Jesus Christ, have mercy on me. Lord Jesus Christ. Anyway, he's kind of like that. But I just want to share this before we get to 30. Got 1 minute. You really believe that, and I'm surprised he got to be a saint, because I thought if you believed this, that kind of prevented you from being a saint. But it seems like he thought there'd be universal reconciliation and everybody would be saved. So I don't want to, it's interesting to me. It's just November, time in the end. He goes, it's not the way of a compassionate maker, creator, to create rational beings in order to deliver them over mercilessly to unending affliction or punishment for things of which he knew even before they were fashioned, aware how they would turn out when he created them, and whom he nonetheless created. I thought it kind of interesting. Like, why, you know, is there, you know, God loves us so much. Why would he send any of his creatures to hell? He was kind of questioning that, right? So, hope you're touched by the love of God today. It's getting dark. You can see the lights come on. It's very beautiful, isn't it? So we'll leave you a little bit of this. And I am going off to build a fire for our religious ed students tonight, and we're going to remember those who've died and pray for them and call on the help of the saints. God bless all of you.